We have three of our panel members that are joining us via teleconference. That'll be Mr. Charlie Rinkovich, Mr. Alan Hours, and Mr. Dominic McClinton. Can y'all hear us okay up there? Charlie, Alan, and Dominic, can y'all hear us okay?
Charlie's here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah, I hear you good,
you.
Charlie. Alan, can you or Dominic hear us?
I can hear you fine.
I think both answered. Okay, great. All right, we're going to move forward. I think that Ms. Hoyt and Mr. Walker might be running a few minutes late, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to call us to order. And first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from August the 27th. I think Dana had a full plate this week, but we got them. And I read them, and I'm fine with them, and I hope everyone else has had a chance to take a look at them.
Yeah. Move we approve.
Second. I have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, great, thank you. All right, Chief, it's your platform. We've got a list of let's just go down the list. Updates on the 10-hour shifting, if you will.
Yes, sir. Again, thanks everybody for being here. I think we are moving through the process very well. And as always, you may get tired of hearing it, but I appreciate everyone on the panel's help with us moving forward with the police department. And I know that most of you are volunteers and could probably have something else you could be doing right now, but I think it's important for both the police department and the community that we all work together to make it a better police department. As you can see, I'm joined by quite a few of my staff, which I greatly appreciate also because they will be able to answer any questions that I may not be able to answer. So I appreciate them being here. 10-hour shifting. As a matter of fact, at this point, I'm going to call Officer Colin Scoggins, our recruiting officer, up to the podium for just a minute. Let him give you a quick update on where we're at as far as the hiring process and the number of officers we have, because the 10-hour shifting is dependent on that. Once we reach a manpower level that we're able to institute that's what we'll do. So, Colin?
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Currently, and I covered a little bit of this last night with our Community First group that we met with. Currently, the Glynn County Police Department is slated to have 121 sworn positions. We currently sit at 103 of those positions being filled. That gives us 18 openings currently. We did get approved for the Department of Justice COPS grant, which allows us to add 8 additional officers to our numbers, and the DOJ grant will pay for that. So if you add the 8 additional to the 18 openings, that puts us at 26 openings that need to be filled currently. Those 8 additional COPS positions would raise us to 129 total positions within the department. Mr. Hours has also been in contact with us and has approved 4 overhires. And the goal with those overhires would be, obviously, we're going to have a little bit of folks come and go. You always do in any business. And so hopefully with those 4 overhires, even if we have 1 or 2 people leave here and there, we have that buffer so that we continue to stay fully staffed, even in the interim when we're hiring and filling those positions. So if you count the 4 overhires, that would put us at exactly 30 positions that need to be filled total. Out of that, I have currently hired 6 that are already on board with us. They're assigned to admin division right now, and they're onboarding. Those 6 are slated to go to the patrol division this Sunday at the beginning of the pay period, and they will begin their field training officer program. And hopefully, a standard field training officer program is 12 weeks long for a non-certified officer, somebody brand new out of the academy. All of these 6 candidates are certified with previous experience, so we're hoping that we can cut that time down considerably. A couple of those are coming to us with experience in both of our main computer systems, Spillman and Gears, because they use them at their previous agencies. So we're hoping possibly even 4 to 5 weeks maybe of training, and they'll be released in a solo capacity, and that would boost our total manpower. In addition to those 6, tomorrow morning I will be delivering 15 additional packets to Human Resources of certified officers that we have interviewed, vetted, done our background checks on, and they've passed every stage at this point. So 15 of those will be taken down to Human Resources tomorrow. The time frame the Human Resources has can change a little bit depending on work schedules and availability. Those candidates would need to be scheduled for the psychological exam, which is standard, as well as a drug screen and a physical exam that we require as part of our hiring process. But as soon as those steps are done, Human Resources would make those 15 officers an offer of employment and get them a start date. Obviously, most responsible people put in 2 weeks' notice at their current job. So that process, we tend to give it about 3 to 4 weeks total from the time I turn the stuff in at HR to the time hopefully we'll be looking at a start date. So roughly a month from today, we'd be hoping for October the 9th to hopefully have those 15 people on board, at least assigned in the admin division. We would do our onboarding process as fast as we can and hopefully be able to push those out to the field training program in patrol as well. The 6 plus the 15 would fill 21 of those positions, of those 30 positions total that we needed to fill. I have currently an additional 5 certified candidates that have submitted applications. I just have to schedule their interviews and then do their background investigations. We hope to have those interviews scheduled either by the end of this week or the first part of next week. Looking over their applications and their information, I don't see a reason why they would not be able to process completely through our process and be able to move forward. So hopefully that would be an additional 5. And that would give us 26 out of the 30 positions that we need to fill full. I'm also recruiting 2 additional people that I've been in contact with. They just haven't filled out the application. So if those were to pan out, obviously that would be 2 more. And so we're getting to the point where we'd be about 2 to 4 people shy of being 100% staffed to include the 4 overhire positions. So if we can get to that point, hopefully, I'm not sure the exact number we needed to go to 5 and 4, but pushing these folks out to patrol within the next month or so, as soon as they come off of field training, would meet the requirement I think we need manpower-wise to go to 5 and 4.
Just a point of clarification on the grant. It was my understanding that you had to be at full staff before you got the grant money?
We do.
Is that changed?
We do. We have to be fully staffed. And so we've currently got 18 openings, and I'm processing 21 applicants right now. So we will be fully staffed with just who I'm processing right now, in addition to a few more. So as soon as we get to that mark of being full, at the 18, then we'll begin specifically filling the COPS positions. And the way that works is Human Resources, when they make their conditional offer of employment, it would be cited in that employment that conditional offer of employment is a part of the Department of Justice COPS grant, and we would begin to fill those. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. This is Charlie Rinkovich. Officer, what is the primary factor that allows you to recruit already certified officers? What is it about the department that attracts them?
I believe that there are several factors right now. When I came back into the administrative division and began recruiting again, honestly, I was a little bit worried as far as how recruiting was going to go with the things that were going on in society in general right now concerning law enforcement. I've actually seen the exact opposite of that. I've seen all of these certified candidates have a desire to serve their communities. Some of these folks have even been out of law enforcement for maybe 2-3 years doing other careers, and they've reached out and they want to get back into law enforcement. They want to do the right thing. And one of my slogans when I recruit is be the change that you'd like to see in your community. And all of these folks want that. They want to be part of the change. They want to be part of the difference. And regardless of maybe some things that have taken place or that are in the news recently, they know the caliber that Glynn County is. They know the caliber not only of the police department, but of Glynn County as a whole. And they want to be part of that. And that's been one of the driving factors that I have seen in most everyone that I've talked to. So.
Sorry. Any other questions from Officer Coggin about 10-hour shifting? Okay. Thank you
Good job.
very much. Take-home car policy.
Well, let me just say, and I don't want to embarrass him, but because I say this to him all the time, but I am very, very proud of Officer Scoggins' recruitment efforts. He has been doing yeoman's work and has really done a fantastic job. And if you couldn't tell, he's excited about what he does, and that's always nice to see. He has done an amazing job. I will add to what he said, we also have competitive pay and benefits here in Glynn County. We really do. For the area, I think that we have are easily competitive with other agencies, both sheriff's offices and police departments in the Southeast Georgia area. So I think that makes a difference. I will tell you, and Colin may not have wanted to mention it, but I think people understand that we'll be going back to the 5 and 4 shifting, and that is a recruiting tool. People like that shift. They want to be able to work that shift, and I think that'll help. I think a lot of the things we've been doing recently are starting to kind of leak out to the law enforcement community that we're moving forward and we're getting things done. The take-home car policy that we're working towards, that is a recruiting tool too. So we've got a lot of good things going on, but Colin does a great job with what he does, and I appreciate it. And that leads us into your next question, take-home car policy. It is my understanding that will be considered by the full board or the full Board of Commission next Thursday at their commission meeting. So we're waiting and Commissioner O'Quinn could probably address that if he wanted to.
That's my understanding. I don't think there should be any issues, but that's my understanding that it'll be addressed then.
Okay, and so we've provided the policy. We've done what we need to do on our end, and we wait for the word from the commission.
Well, the reason both of these things are on there is we want to keep beating this drum. Number one, to help you with recruiting, but number two, so those officers that are out there understand that this is coming. It's just taking a little while to get it done. And of course, the paperwork has to be done first, and I understand the county attorney has a draft policy ready. And so hopefully it'll smoothly get passed by the commission and give you the opportunity to implement that policy right away.
Well, you mentioned a great point, sir. We also want to take care of the officers we have. We want to keep the existing officers, and those types of things show that the reasons to stay here in Glynn County. So moving on to Georgia certification, training, and implementation. We have been moving very quickly forward with our policy manual. Steve Sarnosky is here with me tonight. If you have any particular, and I thought actually we may delve into this a little bit deeper when we discuss the Lexapol contract, but we have been moving forward. We just released a very large number of policies. Steve, what was the number of policies, or where? 23? 43. Which puts us at what percentage of? 78%. We are at 78% completion rate on the policy manual, and we will continue to move forward on that. That is the big holdup for certification. We have to have that policy manual finished, and we are working hard and fast to meet that goal so that we can move forward on certification.
Well,
Steve, I could ask, is there any particularly difficult policies remaining to be dealt with that is that could be a challenge for you in the future?
That's actually a very timely question. Yes, some of the policies that are left are the less critical, and they're fairly standard and should go quickly. There are 3 or 4 policies which we're struggling with and will be struggling with in the near future that are probably going to be problematic and may involve some expense depending on how we end up deciding to deal with it. But that, I guess, is nothing that we can do much about except grapple with the problem and see where we need to go with it. But
could you perhaps provide us with whatever, I mean, the more difficult ones, so we have an idea of what the...
Well, there's 3 that come to mind really quickly, and one is the canine policy, which I've been working on feverishly for the last week, and I think we have a really good draft. We just haven't yet been able to get together to get the brain trust, if you will, in one place at one time to see if that's going to fly. But I think that will largely be okay, although it is an important and complex policy. The one that I think is perhaps most problematic are the policies that deal with detention of juveniles and adults. Our holding cell facility does not meet the standards of the Prison Rape Elimination Act. It does not meet the accreditation requirements from Georgia, and it's going to we're going to have to make some hard decisions about whether we decertify it or spend money to bring it up to speed to meet those requirements. Either way, that's probably not going to happen overnight. That's the most difficult because it involves money.
Is that a showstopper for accreditation?
It is.
When you say a showstopper, so basically you would come back to the commission and say, the setup is not correct. This is what needs to happen in order to make sure that we meet these standards to go forward on accreditation. And part of the reason to meet these standards, I assume, is it provides protection for the juveniles, the adults, for our officers, for the county against lawsuits and whatnot. And so if there's an agreement at some point, and I don't know how much money you're talking about, but yes, we're committed to making this happen, that shouldn't stop accreditation as a whole process. It would just be one part, wouldn't it? Are you trying to tell me that we can't even start accreditation with this not being available?
No, we can move towards accreditation. It's just without addressing and facing whatever the issues are out there with regard to the holding facilities. There's no way that we're going to achieve accreditation without addressing that problem.
Okay.
Mr. Sarnowski, when you say that it has to be addressed before we can move forward to accreditation, does the facility have to be brought up to standard, or would it be sufficient if plans were in place and funds were set aside to accomplish that?
It's a really good question. It doesn't stop us from pursuing accreditation because there are a lot of other things that have nothing to do with the lockup, and obviously we'll be moving ahead with all of those. It just means that we're not going to be accredited until we've addressed the problem. I guess I would have to speak to the people at the accreditation agency to get a better understanding of how forgiving they're willing to be, but we have to understand it involves federal legislation. And a lot of really critical safety issues. So I think they're probably going to require a very clear commitment that the contract has been signed and construction, if you will, is in progress, and there are no fiscal or other policy issues that might stand in the way, because otherwise I don't see them giving us accreditation on a promise that we haven't substantially shown our ability to keep.
Thank you.
Chief and Steve, is there any way y'all can start putting together what it might take to get that in compliance, or cost, if it's construction, if it's technology, if it's whatever it is, to just give us some kind of understanding of what we may be looking at? Because I'm sure the county commission is going to want to know, what they're looking at going down the road.
Right, we definitely need to move in that direction, because either the choice is to decertify it and have no lockup, or to spend some money, and that's going to require a contracting process and probably will take some time. But you're absolutely right, we need to do that sooner rather than later.
If it's going to be a construction project, there's going to be a cost associated with it. The decision needs to be made pretty quickly by the commission, or with a recommendation from us to the commission. This is the way we need to go, one way or the other, and if we go to getting compliance, what the cost is going to be this, so we can start moving toward that direction. I just encourage as soon as we can to get some kind of estimates on those costs.
Well, and some of it may be able to be done in-house. We can work with our public works director and things like that. Anything that we can do, here within Glynn County on our own, we'll certainly try and do to be more cost effective. There's also, and Steve can of course correct me, the opportunity to not have the holding cells. That we could say that we're not going to. That's not a milestone or a goal that we're going to meet. They are very helpful. It gives the officers a place to set somebody while they're doing other interviews and things like that. So we of course want to try to go in that direction, but we'll certainly come back with a cost estimate or figure for y'all to take a look at.
Do I understand the adult holding cells are in compliance, but it's the juvenile detention that's not?
No, it's the same facility. They can be used for either purpose, but either way, perhaps the primary stumbling block is they have to be separated from the remainder of the facility. You can't have someone be able to walk down into the cell block area and look in the windows, or for an individual there to be able to, assuming they were able to escape from their cell, be able to have access to the entire building. And currently that's the standard. There's no secure area outside the cell. Once you close the door, they may be secure inside, but if they're not outside the door, there's, the world is theirs.
Are there
That
any
doesn't meet standards.
current liability issues with this?
I think there are, in the case of a fire, that sort of thing, that there's not an adequate procedure or facility in place to deal with that. The surveillance system has blind spots. I went down there a few months ago with Lieutenant Resden and Talbert, and we looked at it, and there is a blind spot in both of the cells, which obviously is not acceptable. And just the physical plant needs to be improved and made more secure and isolated from the remainder, from both the outside of the building and people inside the building. Other details, but those are the kind of the focal issues. And some of that, appears, if we wanted to go that route, it's going to require some degree of construction, which I don't know whether we can do that in-house or not, but it's probably going to be costly.
Chief Wiggins, did you say, if I understood you, an alternative is for Glynn County not to have a holding facility?
Well, that's certainly something we could talk to the certification group that we would be dealing with about. I can't say for sure that that's a possibility. Of course, when we bring a prisoner in, then that would mean that an officer would be tied up with that prisoner and be with them the whole time.
That was my precise question, is what's the alternative for the officers if there's no secure holding facility?
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. That would be, of course, at the end of processing or interviews there at the police department, they're transported to the county jail, which is the sheriff's office. When they're there in the building, if they need to secure a prisoner for a short period of time, we have the 2 holding cells. Of course, there is the opportunity that an officer could stay with that prisoner throughout the process until they go to the jail. It's about tying up an officer, to me, is what it is.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question. Is there a budget for facilities upkeep, and this is just over the budget, or how is that done? How's maintaining the facilities done on a regular basis?
That's handled by Public Works, and we can certainly speak with Public Works and try and address that issue for you.
The one thing I wanted to know, I understand that y'all are ready to send an officer or a couple of officers off to training for the Georgia certification to start that process. Is that where is that process?
Do we have a date for that yet? The 24th and 25th of this month, we'll have folks there in that class.
How many officers are you sending to that?
2.
Okay.
And also, while we're talking about certification, training, and implementation along the same line, we want to make these policies available, of course, to you, the police advisory panel, so that y'all can review them and give us feedback. But we've also discussed along the vein of being as transparent as we possibly can. We'd like to put them on our webpage so that people we're not hiding anything. These are public records, and we would love to have input from anybody that may have an idea. You never know where your next good idea is coming from. So we hope to in the future be able to publish these policies so that anybody in the community would be able to take a look at them.
I'm a firm believer in transparency, as you're well aware, and I think the sooner you can get them on your website, the better off we'll all be. And then I'm hoping when we get down the agenda a little bit further that we can talk about some of those policies as far as press releases, so the public understands that you are transparent and this is what the policy says. And so that, it's an educational process to know that we are trying to help you guys move in the right direction to get what you need, and the public understands that. I think that's a big issue in our world today.
And I couldn't agree more. I think that especially those very hot topic issues such as use of force and things like that, we need to share with the community. We want them to understand and know that we're following the guidelines and we're doing what we're supposed to do.
Steve, other than canine and holding cells, are there any other heavy lifts that we should, you should be?
You're going to ask. I have to admit, I've drawn a blank on the third issue at the top of my head. The big one is the holding cell. Canines is the current one I'm dealing with. Oh, and there it is. It's tough to get old. The third one deals with how we're going to handle extra duty outside assignments. That's going to require some changes to meet standards. And that's going to have an impact on, pretty much everybody, a lot of the overtime assignments, that sort of thing. So we need to be real careful how we go through that and make sure that we satisfy as best as we can everybody's needs.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions about the certification process and implementation?
Yes, sir. When you talk about extra duty outside assignments, are you talking about overtime for the department or some kind of outside security employment like you sometimes see police officers doing?
Right. Yeah, I'll use just as a way of example, the movie theaters on Saturday nights, and I think Sunday nights they may sometimes, but they hire officers to just patrol the premises and, help keep the rowdy kids under control, that kind of thing. That's the kind of assignments, and it pays, extra money. The county doesn't get any part of that. It all goes to the officers unless there's a vehicle requirement like a construction site, and then we get $10 a day for that, which is really not commensurate with what the cost is. That's maybe something that we could look at and make sure that whatever it costs the county to support those things, that we're getting reimbursed by the vendors. At any rate, every place is different. There's no standard rate, so that it's a bit of a competition. People like the different places to go. Some pay more, some pay less. Obviously, the places that pay more are more popular, but we need to figure out how to equitably divide that available work up to, so that everybody gets a piece of the pie, sort of thing. So we'll have to take a close look at that.
Before you go, I may be at the wrong point in saying this, but the policies, the 43 that you're going to, I understand you're going to get it to us as a panel to look at, but you're going to put it online as soon as possible. Is that correct?
Well, they've been released and are out to to the troops. I was of the impression that Dana had made the manual open or available to you guys, that you could have access to it. Am I correct on that?
It is. I can check and make sure, but it was released to you guys in that folder. There were quite a few documents that went out all at the same time. It went out when it first started, though. I can add in, what I haven't done, Commissioner O'Quinn, is added in the new policies for the last couple weeks, so I can add those in and I'll resend it out to you guys.
That'd be great. And the policies that I've seen, I think, I was very impressed with the ones that I've read through and how well they're written and concise, and they seem to be very thorough. And one of the things I'd like to point out, in our previous manual, I think when you and I, Steve, were speaking the other day, and you mentioned to me that the old manual, when it was printed out, was like, 800 pages or something? Is that correct? I mean, it was kind of crazy.
I think something like 869 pages.
So, I mean, now we're going to have a manual that is concise and consolidated, that, you don't have to try to cross-reference 800 pages. And I think that's just an important point to point out. And it's, when we talk about doing this work, I mean, we can talk about some of the things that we see on the exterior, but the policies are the skeleton of this department, and they're not always seen, but we need, as a panel, and the commission needs to, and this community, understand that that's a very important key point that has to happen, and it sets the tone for the police department in general. So thank you for doing that.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, moving forward to taser funding and body camera and in-car cameras?
You skipped uniform.
Oh, I skipped I apologize. That's why you're the chairman. New uniform purchases are in process right now. We have made the order. They will be coming in very soon. The outer vest carriers also have been measured, fitted, and the order will be placed for those very soon. It's just a matter of ship time. Unfortunately, a lot of things have been slowed down because of COVID, but we are in process on those.
Is that for the entire? Is that for the entire force? New uniforms? Great.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Is it a new uniform or is it just the same one?
No, sir. It's a more modified because of especially because of COVID and things that we've dealt with. It's more of a BDU type uniform, more of the cargo type pants and a polo shirt, because a lot of times the officers are exposed to things out on the street, and especially we realized with COVID when they were put in an exposure situation, to go home and take the Class A uniforms, which we will keep for ceremonial purposes in court and things like that. The officers to go home and change out a uniform, to put a new badge on, a new nameplate, replace the collar brass, and get it washed and pressed is a very tedious process. These new uniforms will be kind of wash and wear. You can throw them in the washing machine and put them in the dryer and be ready to go. So I think the officers seem to be excited about it.
But they are new, they're not surplus.
No, sir. These are coming from a company.
Being a smart aleck one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Moving forward to taser funding, body cameras, and in-car, we are continuing to meet with companies. We've worked with Axon very closely, but certainly we want to make sure that we do our homework and do our due diligence and talk with any other companies that may be in that type of business to make sure we get the most bang for our buck and the best product. And I've talked with County Manager Mr. Hours, and we believe that we may have found some funding for that. So that will, I believe that may be discussed at the next commission meeting also.
I would hope.
Okay. And as I say, we've been working very closely.
I'm just speaking for myself, but I think just kind of polling some of the other commissioners, they want to see this move forward. So if we can move that forward and get some estimates on what exactly you need. Do you need 122 body cameras? You need 60 this year, 60 next year. That whole process. But we need a plan.
We're putting that together now. We're working with the companies, and hopefully in the very near future. We were shooting for Thursday, and I said we're hurrying too fast on this. We need to slow down and be a little bit more deliberate as we go through, so that we don't miss anything.
Well, I do appreciate that. I mean, it shows being diligent in what you're doing. So thank you for doing that. But yeah, there is I believe a strong appetite to see us move forward on this.
Yes, sir.
I would ask in this process, if you wouldn't mind, to do it two ways. Do it total fix with a cost if you can, or a cost not to exceed, or whatever the number happens to be, and then do it where if we have to go 2 years with it, what would it take to do the patrol this year with what we need as far as the body cameras, as far as the in-car cameras, and as far as the tasers.
Yes, sir.
And that way we can give it to the commission with an option, and that may, it really just depends on funding source and what they're able to do at this time. So let's try to give them two options if we will. I'm a firm believer in doing it all at one time and being done with it, but sometimes finances won't allow us to do that. So we need to give them an option.
I think it might be worthwhile pursuing the idea. I forget. Did you come up, David, with the community assistance, people donating funds through a vehicle such as a police foundation in order to provide funding for some of this equipment as well. And it would seem to me that would be something worth pursuing.
We don't want to take anything off the table. We're of course working very closely with Monica Harden, who is our grants coordinator for Glynn County. She does a really good job. As a matter of fact, we just recently, there is a grant out there for additional K9, and we're gonna work towards doing that also. So anything, we realize that we have to be fiscally responsible also. So we're trying to do everything we can to find funding sources that may be not the norm.
Mr. Chairman, I have a point to make. Mr. Quinn, I think that you wound up with a email about suggesting a police foundation. This would fit into the receiving additional funds or community support if we could pursue that.
Yeah, Charlie, we're going to look at that police foundation at some point. We just don't have enough information right now to go ahead and start looking into it wholeheartedly. There's a fellow in Atlanta that's got one going on. We're going to try to contact him and find out, you know, the ins and outs and wherefores and all that other stuff. So we do it the right way and be sure that it's not, you know, we don't want to insult anybody or any of the other public safety agencies. So we want to be careful with it, but we want to do it the right way. And I'm like you. I'm satisfied that we can get some help from outside.
The other comment I would make, Mr. Chairman, directed at the chief is I was impressed with the fact that you now have an online reporting system for minor crimes. And I think that you're to be commended for that. And I think that's the kind of thing that needs to get a little bit more public visibility.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. That is a project that was in place well before I got there, but I certainly see the value of it. Captain Gene Smith has headed up that project for us, and I think really it will be a time saver for officers because people do have that ability to go online and a very minor report. Of course, I want to make clear because as you said, we do need to do a better job of advertising for ourselves. Every one of those reports are reviewed by a police officer, a supervisor, and if it reaches a level that a police officer needs to be involved, we will have a police officer involved in that. So it's a great opportunity for people that just need a basic report for insurance or something like that. So I think it is going to be a big help to us.
Any other questions about tasers, in-car cameras, and body cam? All right. Capital items for this year, Chief, that you've got going on and hopefully coming down the pike. Do you have any comments, a list, or can you give us some idea of what you got going on?
Yes, sir.
Please, and we all understand and we all know you inherited a budget, and we just, you know, trying to identify what's in the budget for this year. This tap to be bought.
Yes, sir. And we included in the packet that we provided to you at our last meeting the list of capital items. We are moving forward on those. Most of those are software type issues. There is a, y'all help me out, it is called e-citation. That is something that we have decided, working with IT, that we will probably kick off in January.
Say the name of whatever it is again.
It is e-citation. It gives the officer the ability to scan a driver's license, and it puts the information in, and they are able to print up a ticket. It's a time-saving device. So those capital items, we're in a good place and moving forward on, and I feel very comfortable with all of them.
Okay. Any other questions about the existing capital budget? Well, I guess it's time to talk about Spillman and my partner right next door to me here. I know it's a hot button for him, and so we just need to continue our discussions. And I see Mr. Usher's here with the 911 Center, and I know Spillman touches a lot of other agencies that are involved here in the county, and so we need to keep an open discussion about what it is, what it won't do, and where we need to go. So hopefully we can keep that moving in the right direction.
Yes, sir, and I appreciate Director Usher being here because they are very heavily involved in that, and we are having those conversations. We are talking about it. As a matter of fact, before this meeting kicked off, we were kind of having a group discussion about that, and we plan to continue to move forward. We're working with IT and working with Spillman to make sure we're using it the way it's supposed to be used and that we're being provided the support and training that's needed for the officers. If the product does what we need, then we're fine, but we need to make sure that it's doing what we need, and we're going through that process now.
I know it's a huge undertaking and it's not going to happen in 10 minutes, but I never figured that. But I know that Mr. Walker has been actively interested in the Spillman system and new systems with the technology out there. And so we want to be sure that we're doing the best we possibly can to provide for not only the police department, but for the rest of the county if that needs to be.
Yes, sir.
Chief, I think, you know my feelings on that, and we've had discussions before, but Spillman, certain parts of Spillman is not functioning properly and have not functioned properly for a long time. Patches come in, they break something else. The officers and users have to make workarounds in order to do something that should have taken 2 or 3 minutes. They're off to, finding someone else that can help, or staying on the phone with Spillman to try to figure it out, or adjusting something on their end because the software isn't working the way they thought it was going to work. So I don't see any use in spending another dime on Spillman if there is another option that will work out of the box without going back and forth, man hours, officers becoming frustrated because they can't get forms done or reports done, and wrong codes, and it's just been a nightmare. Whatever money was spent, this got to just go, because you're spending more money on man hours trying to do a job instead of doing the job. That's my opinion, but I've spoken with the other officers and other users, and that's the way I feel about it.
Thank you, and you're right, workflow is very important as far as the officers' time, and we want them to spend more time out on the street being proactive than at the office trying to get work done. So we're definitely following up on that and working with IT and working with Spillman. So.
Can you talk a little bit about, under Spillman, the RMS? I mean, is that what they're going to come in and kind of give us some more training on, the record management system aspect of it? And is it my understanding when this first came in 2014, when we entered in this contract with Spillman, that was not something that a police department at that time wanted to implement. Is that correct?
I don't want to say that because I can't say that definitively. Steve Usher, Director Usher, may be able to address that a little bit more. I know that it was a system that was sought out as a CAD system, which is a computer-aided dispatch. Prior to that, we had a system called Priors, which was a RMS system, records management system. In other words, putting in reports and things like that. Steve, would you like to give a quick explanation as to how that went?
Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. I'm Director Usher from the 911 Center, and I'll give you a brief, just a brief history. 2014, we did go out for the package. At the time that we got the new Spillman system, our new CAD system, the RMS was not really spoken about because they were going to just merge what we already had because it was too time consuming to bring all the records over. So they were just going to do a patch to bring those records into Spillman. So we didn't get all the bells and whistles with Spillman as far as the police side of it, because they just needed a dispatch portion of it. So it was heavily on the dispatch side when we went out for the RFP, and we did all the asking, can you do this, can you do that? And we did that from a dispatch side, a 911 communication side, not necessarily a police side, because it was not wanted at the time. We got some of the RMS package, but we didn't get everything we needed to make it as robust as it should have been. So therefore, that's probably why you're having issues now. And Spillman is a good system on the dispatch side. We're very familiar with it. We can use it very well. We had issues in the beginning. Those were corrected. On the records management side, I can't speak to that because I know there's some frustrations there, but I believe, and this is just personal opinion, it's because we didn't get everything we needed to start with, because it wasn't really wanted at the time, because they just brought over the record system we already had. And it's not a legacy system. They have upgraded that, so we're not on a legacy system. And we have some cloud-based stuff, and we have like 12 different packages that come into it, 12 different things that have been built into Spillman to make it work with other products. As a matter of fact, the reason we went with our current call handling system, which we just switched over just a few months ago, is because it's a Motorola product. So now all three of our products are Motorola products, from our call handling system, Spillman, and then Motorola. And we are actually one of the first agencies to have all three of the same brand. And I will say that Spillman, when Motorola took over Spillman, a lot of the service from Spillman became lackluster, and we recognize that. Even on our side, we have some frustrations. They fix it for us, but it doesn't seem to be urgent that they fix it, and so we've had to deal with some of that. But just for the history part, you just can know that from the dispatch side, we did all of the vetting that we needed to for that. And at the time, the records management was not the main goal that they were looking for the Spillman system. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So originally it was for the call center.
Yes, sir, for the 911 center, yes, sir.
Okay, and then was there a separate actual system for the patrol side, or were they just building modules onto the 911 center, the call center?
Yes, sir, what we had, and I say it's for the call center, it was for the public safety. We have the oversight committee, who we dispatch for. You know, we have all the multiple players in that, so we dispatch police, fire, EMS. And so they built some interfaces that worked with it to make what we had records-wise work with the Spillman system. Not optimally, but work with it to where they can manage it. So for the officers, it becomes frustrating because there's some things they can't do that they should be able to do, but because we didn't get that part of it, they just put the basic RMS package in. So for the officers, it's frustrating and time-consuming because they can't do what they need to, because we were heavily on the dispatch side of it and not on the law enforcement side of it.
Right, so just a question to you.
Yes, sir.
For the dispatch side, would you recommend keeping Spillman for that purpose, for the dispatch side?
Only if it's going to affect our law enforcement folks, then obviously I want us to get what we can get that's going to be most beneficial to them as well. There are a lot of moving parts to it when we start talking about removing our call handling, our CAD system, because the reason we went with our new call handling system that we just put in and spent the money for is because we had Spillman and Motorola. So there were a lot of things done to do that, to make it all one package. However, if we can find a better package that is going to make it more efficient for everyone, then we certainly need to look at that. Our dispatchers are trained on Spillman, so there would be a lot more training, and they're training even on new stuff today. We just got a new Purvis system for our fire alerting system, so there's a lot of training that goes on, and so we add that level to them. And so I would just be concerned there that that would be a new tool they had to learn. However, they can do it. They're all stars up there. They know how to do all of that, so they could rock it, I'm sure of that. And if it helps our police department, obviously, we want to do what's best for our police department, and we can make that happen.
Okay, the reason I was asking is because if a portion of Spillman is working for you, then there's no sense in, you know, rebuilding the wheel on that if it's working for you, your section.
Yes, sir.
Now, Axon, the portion for the officers, according to the company that is being considered, will be able to also integrate with Spillman.
Absolutely.
So my point is that we don't want to, the intent is not to get you the change if you don't need to change.
And I support that wholeheartedly. And matter of fact, we were in the discussion with Axon the other day. They were asking me some questions. And if it can integrate with our CAD, I think that's a no-brainer. We need to make that happen if it makes it easier for our officers and more efficient, because their safety and their time is most important. So for dispatch side, we're happy with Spillman CAD because it works for us. But if we can integrate something with that to make it more efficient for the first responders, that's what we want to do, and that's what we need to do. Okay. And I support that 100%.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Usher,
yes, sir.
Just so I can understand properly, Spillman, you use that for the city of Brunswick, the sheriff's department, the college police, is that correct? I mean, they're all tied into it. And do they have issues? Do we know? I know we've talked about kind of reaching out to them. Do you know if they are saying, hey, our police department is having these issues, or the sheriff's department is saying we're not getting some of the reporting that we need out of it also? Or is it just, has that been even discussed with any of the partners at this point?
Major Post from the Brunswick City Police Department, he has brought up some concerns with the Spillman part of it for their records management portion. So we have had that. The college, not so much, because they don't do reports and stuff, and same with the schools, they don't do a lot of that. The Sheriff's Department, they have their own dispatch center and they do their own CAD reporting, so they don't use it as much as the field officers do. But I've not gotten a lot of feedback saying, hey, we don't like this, we need to change it. So I don't know that they're completely happy with it, but they're not like raising the flag saying we can't use this system.
Okay, but the city of Brunswick, I guess, has had maybe raised some concerns
Major
on
posts
their
are
RMS.
just some of the same concerns that they can't use some of the fields they need to be able to use. So I believe it's some of the same concerns that the county has as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Steve, in your talks, do you think that it's fixable, or do there need to be two different platforms, you know, I'm assuming you guys are all going to get together and try to come up with a recommendation that'll work for all of you without really trying, as Mr. Walker said, without really trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yes,
but I guess my question would be, is it fixable? And if it is, what do we need to do? And then, of course, down the road, what's the cost associated with it?
When it comes to vendors, it's only as fixable as they want it to be, because they start pointing fingers at each other that this one can't do it and that it's their fault. So my philosophy is, if we've got a product that's going to work with it and they're not willing to fix it on the Spillman side, because when you start telling them we're going to get another records management system, and I think they're hearing that, but they're not acting upon it. So I think if they know that we're getting ready to pull the plug on the RMS, and I think we need to make that very clear to them, that perhaps they step up. But it's been my experience that their service part of it, their patches don't always work. And as a matter of fact, it breaks the map sometimes, and we've had that issue. And IT gets in there and fixes it right away. So we're lucky to have a GIS on hand that can fix that for us. It doesn't slow us down and doesn't stop us as much as it does the police department, but it could possibly make it to where it would delay a response if something broke severely in the system. So I think it's just a matter that if Axon is going to be a better product for the police department and it can patch into Spillman, we need to go with Axon.
Is Axon able to point to other police departments that they have tapped in or connected with on Spillman? I mean, do they have a track record they can point to, or have y'all gotten that far in that discussion?
I believe we'll have those discussions tomorrow when we meet. We had some very basic discussions the other day about what the CAD does currently, who we dispatch for, what do we do. So I'll make sure to ask that question, do you have other agencies? Because personally, if we start going that route, I would like to go see it and working it out. How are you making it work? You know, we need to go get our eyes on it and say what's working. Same thing we did with our call handling system. I went to Houston County to look at it before because there were some concerns, and we went there and asked those questions. What about this? What about this? And that actually helped us, because when they started implementing our system and it wasn't doing certain things, we were able to go back and say, well, this is the same problem Houston County had, and so it got elevated to the highest level, and they fixed it before we ever took over the ownership of the system. So I believe it's relevant that we do that, and we should do that. And so we'll definitely ask that question with Axon. Do you have other agencies that are using Axon with Spillman? And what results are you getting from that? And from talking with Axon, they seem confident that they can merge with that system. And that would be my concern. If we can keep Spillman and go with Axon, that's what I would prefer. But if Spillman just was not an option, then we obviously need to look at something else. And as a dispatch center, as the director, and as our community relies on us, we would definitely look at what's most beneficial for the responders and the county. Yes, sir.
So just one last comment.
Yes, sir.
So I looked at the document where Spillman said, well, they gave their basically guarantee or what they were going to provide the police department when it came to Spillman, the system itself, system-wide. So all the patches, maintenance, lifetime, life of the contract, all that was supposed to be taken care of. Now, the CAD system, I know that the gentleman that spoke at the last meeting on Axon, from Axon, said that there were two types of CAD systems that I think was being used in the area, and both of those could be integrated into Axon. But once again, if Spillman is working for you, that's one piece we can cut out. But I know he said he could do that because we talked about normalizing the CAD system in Spillman and then being able to integrate it into the system with Axon. So Spillman made some guarantees basically in their document that they have not adhered to. And like you said, I don't expect them to do anything different. I mean, they've been getting away with it for years now, so.
Yes, sir. And we speak of transparency, so I'll just be very transparent with you. Motorola took over Spillman, and Motorola's creating their own CAD. They're looking to get their own CAD. So if you're creating your own CAD, you're not going to really put your eyes on the one that you're bringing with you. Eventually, that's going to fade out, and Motorola may be calling me and saying, why are you talking about that? However, it is what it is. The CADs are all the same. Each one puts a little different spin on things, but it does the same thing, and Motorola may not have their eyes as much on Spillman now, because even when I go to a conference, Motorola's got their big thing and Spillman's in the corner. So they're under their umbrella of Motorola, but they're just kind of also themselves. So they're not putting as much emphasis on Spillman because they're trying to build their out-of-the-box package call handling CAD and radio system, so they can just sell you one thing. And so they may not have their eyes as much on Spillman, and I believe that's why the service dropped off, because there's no one really, because Spillman, when they were their own entity, really was working well, and when their service was bang up and they did what they were supposed to. When Motorola bought them, it all started going south.
Okay, so that's pretty much, I guess, a warning sign there, because if Motorola comes out with their own system, they may not sell it in a chunk. It may be one total system, and you can no longer have an individual CAD. So if you could maybe find out.
Yes, sir.
I don't think they're going to give away any trade secrets, but if the CAD all of a sudden becomes, the algorithms become proprietary, then
right.
It's no longer Spillman, it's Motorola.
Right, so. And it is, for all intents and purposes, it is Motorola. It's just Spillman kept the name. Motorola bought Spillman, but Spillman kept the name. But Motorola will just encompass all of that and make it their Motorola product.
So they won't make a separate CAD.
There won't be a Spillman CAD
there
anymore. It will be a Motorola CAD. The Spillman name will go away.
And you'll be able to keep that CAD without buying an additional total solution that Motorola puts together.
That's what they tell us. I won't tell you for sure that's going to happen, but that's what they tell us.
Okay, well, if you think about it, or if you find out any more information, because it'd be better to just can the whole thing now than later down the road.
Absolutely. I'll definitely talk to the contacts at Motorola and say, look, this is what we're looking at, and tell us what your plans are for the future. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I would encourage y'all to have all the players involved with your discussion. You know, I know the city's a big player, and whoever else that needs to be in there.
Absolutely. And we will be, the Joint Public Safety Oversight Committee meets every quarter. We'll be meeting October 5th, I believe it is. And this will be a discussion that will be on the agenda just to get them to have some knowledge of what's happening. And matter of fact, Jay's part of that, so he can be able to speak on that as well. And so just so they know what's going on, and we'll mention that to them and get their feedback on that as well.
Great. Any other questions about the Spillman system from anyone? Okay, Steve, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Steve.
The next one is the Lexapol contract. You know, I think, Steve, I think you told us, the other Steve, Sonowski, that you said that we had a payment due, or the county had a payment due probably, I think it's due October from what I read earlier today. And I mean, if we drop it, we have what we have, and it's all hard copy, and we don't have any electronic copy, and it just kind of shuts the whole system down. So all that being said, my question would be, when will we be done with Lexapol, and what will we have, and what will be the continuing issues we will have with Lexapol going forward after we move toward accreditation? Did that make sense?
Yes, sir, it does. The Lexapol program is essentially in perpetuity. Every year there is a license fee. This year, I believe, there was a misunderstanding. As best as I can tell it was about $11,500. In truth, it's closer to $22,300. for the full price, which I don't think we'll ultimately have to pay, but that's what it is on paper. And every year forward would require, a reinvestment in the license fee. For that, you get the full electronic availability of the policies. So I have them on my cell phone. They have them on the MTDs in the cruiser, their cell phones, computers in the station, at home for that matter, if you have a password. So there's really, really excellent access to the policy manual. And it's all researchable. It's all numbered in a logical fashion. It's a very easy group of policies to read through and locate. In addition,
Can I interrupt you right there?
Yes, sir.
So once we have the Lexapol policies done, and I know there are updates and all those things that go along with it, and we move toward Georgia certification, what role will those policies play as far, what will be the need to keep Lexapol once the Georgia certification is done?
The value of having Lexapol is the confidence that when the law changes, that someone is watching that and seeing that all the new changes, and there are some significant ones from this year, are brought forward to you, presented, and are integrated into your policy. The problem that, quite honestly, we had when I arrived a year and a half or 2 years ago is that the policies had not been addressed since about 2005. And that just doesn't work in today's law enforcement world. As we all know, it's a much more fast developing complex, and it's getting more complex every day. It needs constant attention.
So that would warrant my question, with the Georgia certification, does the Georgia certification process not update annually and hold the department accountable to be sure they're meeting the updated standards and policies, if you will, with the documentation in there?
No, it does not.
It doesn't? Okay.
All it does is set you on a particular date that we've met whatever the standards are, and then it runs on a 3-year cycle. The next time you would be up, if you will, for a re-examination would be 3 years down the road, and they would look at the policies and the reports and the documents for the last 3 years to ensure that you had in fact been keeping up. But that's on a 3-year cycle. Lexapol is on a 5-minute cycle.
This is Dom.
It's there when you need it.
If there is a change made in the requirements, do they automatically do that, and is there a charge for that, or is that included in the annual maintenance fee?
The annual maintenance fee includes the constant updating and reevaluation of policies and best practices. It includes the daily training bulletins, which takes the more current, controversial, or relevant, if you will, incidents and policies, and provides, daily training to people on how to look at these new developments and how they should be implemented. Really, really critical thing. And then the license fee also provides all the access to the electronics and the database and everything, so that you're not stuck with a piece of paper that you can't change.
Curiosity. Had you had that kind of a watchdog system in place, would you be in the same shape you're in today that you're in with the policies?
Well, I can't speak for back to 2005, but if there had been constant updating and attention, we certainly would have been in a better place. I really don't think a department the size of Glynn County has the expertise or capability or the money to really do the job that Lexapol is doing. It's difficult, time-consuming. It requires some legal acumen, which most of us do not have.
How is the updated information that you receive from Lexapol under the ongoing agreement, how is that incorporated into your policies? Like if the updated information indicates that a change needs to be made or a policy needs to be amended in some way, how does that happen?
They send out a summary email to all the customers that are affected. Georgia customers would all get essentially, I'm sure, the same email that identifies the policies, identifies the nature of the changes, and invites you to go to your electronic version copy where the actual changes in language have been made. And what it does is present it to you online with your existing policy on the right, the new policy on the left, where you can see what the new changes are, and a little box in the middle to say you can accept, you can reject, you can edit, you don't have to accept all of their policies. We've made a number of local edits that I felt were important to do for various reasons. So we just build those back into the new policy, but you see it on the screen in front of you, and you can really make a very good determination about, gee, this is important. I can see what's being done, why the statutes changed, the Supreme Court has a new case, whatever the genesis of the change is, and then you can just accept it, and it builds it immediately into your policy, and then all you do is reissue the policy. If it's a substantive change, like the use of force changes that we just made yesterday, I sent those out. I think I copied you on the email to everybody, and then encouraged them to check the use of force policy, because there'd been, and then outline for them some of the significant changes that had been made. Sometimes it's more of a technical statutory change that can be done, they call it in the silent fashion. You just click the button, it makes up the policy current, but it doesn't really notify anybody. It may just be a statutory citation, or a relatively minor definition of a term, or something that is not critical, but you want to keep it up to date. But it's a good, very easy policy procedure to work with. They're clear, they're concise, and they give you the opportunity to review it, tailor it, just accept it as a whole if that's appropriate, and that sort of thing. So it works well.
In your document, you had recommended that you extend the contract, I believe, and you were going to go back and review that, and you were going to come back and let us know whether that recommendation stands. Are you prepared tonight to make that decision?
From my view, yes, I haven't changed my mind on the Lexapol process. I think it's the best out there. I've not seen another vendor that comes even close to what Lexapol can do and provide the service that it can. I know it's not cheap, but I don't think that we could provide anywhere near the same service if we decided to try and go on our own. It's not possible. We don't have the money or the manpower to do that.
Any other questions or concerns about Lexapol? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
The next item on the agenda is we've kind of tossed this around a little bit without really getting involved. It's a press release that I think the time has come that our committee makes a press release in concert with the police department and whomever else to say, this is where we were, this is where we're going, this is where we are today, and highlight some of these things that we've gone over. And, I don't want to be premature, but if the commission hopefully is going to approve that next Thursday, I would hope that we could have a press release ready for Friday morning. That and if anyone on the committee wants to take this on as a task to meet with the chief and some of his people, or a couple, that's fine. I just think that as time has come, that we need to give you guys the pat on the back that you deserve for where you started and where you are today. And it's over. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Charlie Rinkovich here. I agree wholeheartedly with you, and I would suggest that whoever prepares such a release use as a foundation the county newsletter that went out in the first part of August. It had a very nice section on progress made in the police department, modifying that, adding additional stuff, and editing it would be a very good place to start for a press release. That was the first edition of apparently what's going to be a regular newsletter from the county, and it came out first part of August 7th, I think. That's a good place to start.
I agree with you, Charlie. I would hope that we would tailor this press release so we can cover all the media. And so it's going to show up everywhere, so people have an understanding. And in my opinion, it's just the opinion of one person, that we highlight a couple of the policies in there, whether it's the escalation, de-escalation policy or the use of force policy, those things that the public wants to know about and are curious in our world today. Go ahead and put it out there and let them know exactly what you guys are thinking and what rules you're traveling under. And I don't want to make it so I would encourage us not to make it so, put so much stuff in there it gets confusing, but make it an easy read, but just a good understanding of where we are and what's going on with the police department.
I agree. And that newsletter I referred to is online, but there are a whole bunch of voters that don't have access or use the internet. So having a release for the local news media would be the way to go.
Yes, sir, and I couldn't agree more. I'm very proud of the work that the men and women of the police department have been doing, and I think it shows in their attitude. And we definitely, want the community to know that we're there. So what I would recommend is we will have our public information officer, Brandon Kondo, work with Matthew Kent and Anna Trapp to kind of bring together a group and some thoughts and ideas that we can push out to people, because certainly we want people to understand and know that we are moving forward and we're trying to do the best we can.
If we can be of any help in that, I mean, I'm certainly willing, and I'm sure the other panel members are willing to contribute from our perspective, what we have seen and the progress we've seen. And so if you want to put something together, Dana, and maybe send out an email, and for anyone who wants to participate in that, I think it might be helpful.
And I'll get Brandon in on it too. Y'all are familiar with Matthew and Anna, but I'll get Brandon Kondo in on the email, and he can assist adding anything from you guys.
Okay.
And all those items under, the bullet points under item number 3, I would hope that we could highlight all those or at least speak about them.
Sure.
That's a story in itself. Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Anything else on press release? But I would like for this to be ready to go, almost by next Friday. If the commission meets on Thursday and the take-home car is approved and whatever else they approve, make that part and parcel of whatever the press release says. So just there are some people out there that have an earnest desire to know what's going on, and there's some people that would like to know, but they don't have an avenue to figure out where it is. So if we can, as much media as we can get it in, I think it's to the department's advantage.
Yes, sir. Let Brandon know we've got work for.
Anyone else want to add anything to that?
I'm just curious. There are, sort of public relations agencies out there. Is it that maybe would be willing to contribute to assisting in putting something like that together? I don't have any recommendations, but I'm just thinking.
Yes, sir.
Crafting it,
sure, we can certainly explore that.
Yeah.
We have a great in-house team. We can, and we'll, of course, anything we put together, we'll run by the panel first to see if there's anything you want to add to what we've put together. And I mean, it's coming from all of us. So.
You guys are just due to pat yourself on the back a little bit.
No, sir. I don't. We have a job to do, but we want people to know that we are doing what we're supposed to do, and that's what it's about. So, if anybody needs a pat on the back, it's the staff and the officers. So, but we appreciate that very much.
All right, number 8, the swearing in of Chief Wiggins. I don't know. I think everyone the word's kind of out that Chief Wiggins will be officially sworn in by Judge Scarlett tomorrow at 9 o'clock in Judge Scarlett's courtroom. So,
yes,
without any further ado, I wanted to make that announcement. And if any of the panel members would like to attend, or anyone else, I think it would be. It's an occasion that I intend to go to, and if any other you guys, I don't think we're held by any sunshine or quorum issues to go watch that. So just as a notification and a congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir.
It's most due or overdue. Thank you.
Very, very much appreciated. I can't say how much I appreciate the support of the panel. I know that y'all have been very helpful to me. There again, the community, the Board of Commission, but most of all to the agency, who has really risen to the occasion and welcomed me and have really come together and stood behind me. I could not have done anything or be where I'm at today without the help of a lot of people around me. So it's greatly appreciated.
Sir, I'd just like to say that I am scheduled to be instructing in the classroom tomorrow at that time, or I would be there. I'm sorry that I can't be, and I do congratulate you.
I certainly understand. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that very much. Appreciate that very much. If I may, because this is a forum where we share information with the public and talking about transparency. I know everybody's ready to go and we want to wrap up, but I thought this was a great opportunity to talk about some traffic issues we've had on St. Simon's Island that I know has, if it has not taken the county by storm, it certainly has taken Facebook by storm. We realized yesterday was a tough day for people in the community, especially there on St. Simon's that live or work on St. Simon's. There were some new traffic patterns to come to grips with, and we adjusted. We worked very closely with our public works partners. They have done an amazing job. Lieutenant Eric Noggle and his team with the traffic division have been out there monitoring that traffic and trying to keep it moving. And I think we saw the impact of that today. I can tell you that I received quite a few messages and quite a few phone calls yesterday, and I have not received that many today. And in our world, that means that something's going right. So it's going to take some getting used to. Hopefully by the time we get used to it, it'll be over with. I've talked with Public Works Director Dave Austin, and he's holding their feet to the fire that it'll be a 2-week period. We will do everything we can to make it tolerable for everybody in the community, but I just wanted an opportunity to let people that are at home watching and just you as the panel know that we take it very seriously, and the officers and Public Works have done a great job with what is not an easy task. So.
You only have so many roads and too many cars. Sometimes tasks are impossible. But Lieutenant, thank you for the work you do. And let me just say, we have not forgotten about you guys. I've asked the chief to schedule us a meeting with you, and we certainly want to do that just as quick as y'all get where you can. If you can give us some dates, and then we'll have 2 or 3 come and sit down and talk with you guys and get the information that you need to get to us.
It's going to be at least 2 weeks before they can talk.
I kind of figured that's the answer what I was going to get. But thank y'all for the job that you do.
I can arrange that with Stephanie as well.
Perfect. That'd be
Okay,
great.
I can do that.
Mr. Chairman, I know this is a police forum, but I would just like to invite you all, you're welcome to come to the 911 Center anytime and kind of see what we do so you kind of get a better idea how we operate there. So you're welcome to come there anytime.
I can tell y'all from experience, it's a very interesting place, and to see what goes on in there, and talk to those dispatchers when they're not busy, which is not very often. And they're this kind of the heartbeat of law enforcement, really, in the county. No, I shouldn't say law enforcement, I should say first responders, because they're handling police, fire, EMS, and Lord only knows what else. And it's quite a show back there. So I would encourage you, if you can, Steve, I'd ask them to get with you and schedule some time when you're available so you can kind of walk everybody through, because it's pretty amazing.
I have one more thing. I promise this will be the last thing. I apologize. I wanted to, number one, thank the members of the panel that were able to attend our meeting with Community First last night, which is a group of pastors here in the community that we've been working with. We wanted to have an opportunity for them to meet with some of the panel, and I wanted to highlight the fact that that is another area where we're trying to move forward with community policing. We have a forum. I think last night was our 3rd meeting with that group. They're very interested in the police department, very interested in helping, being a part of the police department. As I've told them, and as I've said before, it's not our police department. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to everybody in the community. So the more involvement that we can have like that is better. We really want to move towards even more community policing. Of course, coming up next week, I will be out of town. I apologize, but on the 16th, we will be having another virtual town hall meeting. We've asked that any of the panel members that could be available to come and be a part of that, to let people at home that watch, over the internet, what you folks are doing and how much we appreciate that. And I think also it would be a good opportunity to have Colin speak again about some of the great stuff he's doing. So I will not be able to be there for the virtual town hall meeting next week, but we will have Captain Evans and Captain Smith and some of the other staff.
Do you have a time designated yet?
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock on the 16th, and we will be meeting in the Harold Pate building right across the street on the second floor. Dana, if I'm wrong, correct me.
Just a reminder, if we can put on the public releases that a possible quorum of police advisory panel members will be there, and that way y'all can attend. If we have it listed that a quorum might be there, y'all are able to attend together if you choose to. We don't have to worry about the numbers.
Well, Dana, would you remind Brandon of that? Because Brandon, I'm sure, will be pushing that information out with Matthew and Anna's help.
I will.
Thank you so much.
You know, I'm going to hush in just a second, Chief, but these things that are happening are those things that need to be in these press releases. And we can't certainly overload the first one, but I think the press releases, we need to get more often with them. And so just highlighting the things that you guys are doing and what's going on, and so the public has a good understanding that we're working toward a common goal, and that's to provide the best police department in the United States right here in Glynn County.
Yes, sir.
All right, next meeting, Dana, you're on. Is everybody still fine with 2 weeks? I mean, we can't get out of here in an hour, meeting every 2 weeks, and so I'm afraid if we wait 4 weeks, we'll spend half a day here. So everybody still good meeting every 2 weeks and trying to limit it to an hour, hour and a half?
The 23rd, September 23rd, it's a Wednesday. What does that look like for you guys?
Fine for me.
If you wouldn't mind sending us out on an email.
All right.
And let me get where I can check my other calendar, but I think I'm good on that day.
Okay, 23rd.
All right. Sorry. Yeah. Is there any other business, any of you guys, Dominic, Mr. Hours, and Charlie, y'all, anything you need to add?
Nothing from me.
Nothing from me.
Dominic, we look forward to your return. And as I said on an earlier call today, that your return is absolutely, should be, I consider absolutely good news with your situation. So God bless you and your family, and hope all's going well.
Well, thank you very much. Again, we want to say we appreciate all the thoughts and prayers concerning this, but it is a excellent situation. Continue to improve, and we'll continue to do so once we return. So thank you.
Great, good news. Anything else that needs to be brought forward? Hearing none, I'll entertain them. I'm sorry.
Just real quick, I've sent you guys the updated policy manual. You should have gotten that email already. It is about 1,000 pages long, a little over 1,000 pages worth of reading for you guys.
Thank you very much. 1,000 pages?
It's the entire manual, so it's everything updated. It's all of them all together.
Okay.
And it has a preface, all that in it.
That used to take up 2 binders like that. So with it electronic, it is much easier to deal with.
The IACP accreditation binders back in 20 years ago were 2 big binders. So I know I know it hasn't lessened any. So,
It's gotten worse.
I can imagine.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn the meeting.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.